Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming along here tonight. Really appreciate it. This is a very special night. Obviously, we want to find out about obviously Rangers Football Club, where we are going forward, what's happening, and as you know, there's been invites to people, and you can see who has come along in order to answer the questions that we have and look at it. We're really looking tonight, as I say, it's a special night, and be able to ask questions and find out what's going on. And the guys are open to that, to listen to what you've got to say. We really do want, obviously, best of order tonight. That's one of the things we want. I want a bit of dignity shown here, and want people to be in their best behaviour, a question, and no shouting while questions being answered. We'd like you to give a bit of respect to people who are asking questions, and also to those people who are answering questions. We have our 5 panelists here who are going to be doing that. So really appreciate that, and that would be great if you do that. How we're going to do this is we're going to have a 45-minute first start, then we'll have a 15-minute break like a football match. We'll have a half time, and then another 45 minutes. And at half time you can obviously have your drinks and have your comfort break and all that sort of thing, and then another 45 minutes of question and answers, and the guys will be happy to do that. So that's very important to do in terms of behaviour and the way we're going to run this tonight. The first part of it, the guys are going to be saying a few words. As you probably know, the top table, we have here Jim McCall, then we have Alec Wilson, Paul Murray, we have Malcolm Murray, and then we have Scott Murdoch at the end. These are the 5 guys. So I think a round of applause for these guys for coming along. Very much appreciated. And how we're going to do it as well is that each time the mics will be coming out, the girls will have a job in order to hand the mics out. There's 2 mics, but we'll be doing 3 questions at a time. Now, when you ask a question, I would quite like whoever you are who's been chosen to ask a question, you stand up, you say your name, and then you give us an indication of whether you're affiliated to any of the fans' bodies or you're independent. We know you're all Rangers fans, but we want to know whether you're affiliated or independent when you make your question. So first and foremost, your name, and then whether you're representative of anybody. Now, I think that, as I say, looking for it, I'd appreciate it as well if everybody would switch their mobile phones off. Is that a problem to MD? Cameras, mobile phones. There's not going to be any singing or anything like that, but we just want the phone switched off. So we could do that, that'd be great. And as someone also said tonight, we'd love to see you all to the end. We don't want the Subway loyal here as well. And, we'd love to see you all at the end as well. But we're looking forward to it. As I say, it's very important. There's a lot of questions to be asked. But before we do that, we'd actually just like to have the chaps here at the top table to say a few words that might enlighten us in certain aspects, but it also might concentrate some of the questions in terms of what you want to ask. So first and foremost, I'd like up to speak would be Jim McCall.
Well, thanks for coming along tonight and inviting me to kind of tell you how I got involved in this and why I'm involved. I got involved in this whole campaign in July. I had been visited by some fans groups, some concerned institutional investors, and some individuals who were keen to invest in the club but wouldn't do it when Green was there. Now, one of the common requests was, would I buy the club? And I explained to people that I couldn't do that, and I can't do it because I run 2 funds that invest in my engineering businesses, and I had to give a commitment to the investors I've got, and I've got 38 of them, 2/3 of them in America, the rest spread across Europe. One thing I had to give a commitment on, that whatever I invested in was alongside theirs, and I managed their money for them, and I gave them a word on that. So if I start to get distracted from that, I lose the support of these people, and I've worked, the past 30 years since my apprenticeship to get here, and I'm not going to let that go. But I felt I couldn't sit back and let happen what was happening to the club. you know, it struck me when I saw the IPO and the costs of that. We've done 2 IPOs of our businesses, and the costs were 5% to 7%. Rangers was 25%. Something wrong. Money was flowing out of this club. And then there were other things happening that made me think that, you know, the money was just draining, and the focus here was on how could people make themselves rich instead of supporting the club. And no one was doing anything. So I decided to get involved and try and coordinate some action to remove the people that were in there that I thought were causing the problem, and that was, I thought, Charles Green and his cohorts. And when I did a bit of research on it, Imran Ahmed worked with them before, so did Stockbridge, so they were all tied together before. I also have a business down in Huddersfield, and the same thing happened to Sheffield United, and Green was in there. And I had some of our workers down there approach me and say, you need to watch this man. When he bought into Sheffield United, they were 4th top of the championship. And when he left 18 months later, they were 4th bottom of the 1st division. They're still in the 1st division. They found it very difficult to get back out, and they said, if you don't watch, this is what's going to happen to Rangers. So that's why I got involved in it. My father used to take me along weekly to the game at Ibrox, and I thought, you know, if I didn't get up and do something, I'd feel really bad about it. So that's why I got involved. I didn't realise it was going to be so emotionally charged. We've had threats, a number of us, all through this. Some people have dropped out along the way because of these threats, but we're not going to let that stop us. My goal from the beginning was to try and remove Green and all his placemen in there. And I saw his placemen as Mather, Smart and Stockbridge. By that time, Ahmed had gone, Imran Ahmed, who had come into the business as the commercial director, never done a commercials director's job in his life before, huge salary, all in huge salaries, all in huge bonuses, just draining money out of that club. And I don't think we're at the bottom of it all. And the only way to get to the bottom of it all is to get people in that you can trust that will really dig into it and let you know what's going on. We've been fairly successful in that everybody's been removed except Stockbridge from our original target. And I think he's in there because he's the gatekeeper of the money, and if he goes, you know, there'll be a lot, I feel there'll be a lot of additional information comes out here. So I think it's important that with the money that's flowed out of this club in the past year since the IPO, plus the fans' season ticket money, it's, you know, it's scary. I don't know how all of that money could have flowed out, and I don't think any of us have had a good explanation of what's happened to it, because it's huge sums of money, and you know, if you do the back of the envelope calculations, you can't get anywhere close to it. So we were very keen to put some people in to look at this. Now, the first way we tried to do it was through a requisition for an EGM. We had 2 people that we were going to put in, and we had named the Green people that we wanted off the board as part of the requisition. Now, at that time, Walter was in. He was still in there. So we had someone in the camp. Eventually, Walter came to me and said, I can't stay in here, because that was when Green announced he was coming back. And he said, I can't stay in the same room as that man. He felt he was being used to get the fans' support so that they got the season ticket money. That's what Walter felt. And we tried to talk him into staying there, because without him there, you would have had 2 people going on, and they would have been in the same position as Malcolm Murray was before, and Phil Cartmel, who were trying to get things done, but they were getting sidelined and overruled, and that's the way it would have been. That's why we abandoned the requisition for the EGM, because we saw another route, that the AGM was coming up soon, and we could nominate people to go on there, and all directors are up to be re-elected at that, so you can vote them off. So we thought that's another another way to attack it in a better way. However, all of our attempts to try and get people nominated were being frustrated. Just false reasons why we couldn't put people on. We knew that we had the right legally to do it, but it was getting stalled. And we eventually had to go to court, as you know, the Court of Session in Edinburgh, to get the judge to rule that we put the 4 people on. The reason the AGM was put back is we didn't have enough time to get the names out there. So the AGM circular would have been out, and people would maybe be putting in their proxies before they see what was happening. That's why we had to get it delayed. It didn't need to go to the 19th of December. It could have been done 4 weeks later or 21 days later, but it's been pushed out so that the board could be built up. Now, I expected them to appoint a chairman because they need someone to chair this AGM. I'm surprised that other people came on, given the unsettled nature of what was going on. But I think they do have a couple of people on there that you've got to give a chance. You know, I'm not sure why who selected the chairman. The other 2 appointees, I've done some background checking, and they appear to be good people. In fact, the CEO we were considering to bring in anyway later on. So you can't then rubbish the guy when we're looking at bringing him in. So there's the start of building the board there. But we need to add to that, and we need to push to get some additional people on so that we've got enough people there to make sure that we get into all of that's going on in this club and get it back in an even keel. And I'm very keen that we're not seen as, you get called rebels. I don't see us as rebels. I think we're trying to get things changed for the good. And I don't want to be presented that a team's going in and there's going to be this fighting once they're inside, because the club's going through enough of hostility. What we need is a period of stability here. But we need people who will go in, work with the new people on the board, and try and get things done. I think a dream of wiping the whole board out and getting new people in is just pie in the sky. You won't do that. We've got to think, how do we get the end result we want? And the end result will be achieved if we can get 4 people onto the board to work with some of the board there and really start to stabilise the club and take it forward. Before we get into this, we spoke to the institutional shareholders that were asking us to do something, and we said to them, look, we need more money in here, so will you commit to come in for more money once this is all sorted out? They all, almost to a man, said, as long as we've got a stable board, we are happy to come in and support it with more money. Alistair McCoist is going to need next summer to be putting a team in place that is going to be a team that plays in the Premier League, because he's got to have the season and the championship to bed them in. If you think he can wait until he wins the championship and then give people, that's not going to work. We need to get things sorted out now. And I think we have people, both individuals who are prepared to come in, who wouldn't come in as long as Green was in there. You'll know a number of them, and we've got institutional shareholders, so there is no problem funding this club properly to move forward. The important thing is to get a board in place that that can stabilise it and be transparent on all that's going on in the club and get to the bottom of what's happened and get it sorted out. So I'm not intending to be in the board or get involved in any way. My main reason was I couldn't sit back as someone who was a supporter of this club. I'm a Glaswegian. It's too important to Glasgow and Scotland and to me and my family, so I couldn't sit back and see it destroyed, and that's the main reason I'm in. And hopefully after the 19th, I'll disappear, and I might get an invite along to the box once they get into Europe. If some of our guys get in, I'll certainly not get back in if they don't, so please support me.
Thanks, Jim. We'll now hear from Paul Murray.
Good evening. My name is Paul Murray. As regards business, just so you don't know me, I'm a chartered accountant. I've spent the last 25 years in the private equity world, so I'm a professional investor. My passion, though, is Rangers, and as you probably know, I'm a former director of the club. I was director from 2007 to 2011. I think during that time, my credentials in terms of the club are well documented. We were very successful in reducing the debt in the club, and I thought we had a very well managed club, and of course we had a lot of success in the pitch as well, which was down to Walter and the team. For the last 2.5 years, as most of you in this room will probably know, I've spent a lot of my own time and my own money. I mean, I'm portrayed by some people as being a troublemaker, but I've literally spent 2.5 years on my own to a certain extent, trying to expose what's been happening at the club. I just talked it up today, actually, on the way through here. I think there's been over £100 million has gone from this club over the last 2.5 years. £100 million plus. If you count up all the income, the season ticket money, the IPOs, the this, that, and that is scandalous. What's happened to the club? It's an absolute disgrace, and that's why. I mean, I'm getting no benefit from this, financial benefit. I have domestic grief, etc. But this is far too important to let go. And as Jim was saying, the objective is to end up with a board that we can all trust and actually have faith in. That's the objective. And until we get to that point, I think that this campaign has to continue. So basically, I'm here to promote Rangers' interest, not self-interest. And I think what's happened is wrong, and I think we have to stop it. One pledge that we intend to make tonight, all four of us, is that we will work without any fees or any money for the club for the next 2 years until the club is hopefully back into the SPL. So we're not looking to make any money or take any money from this club going forward. And I think some of the things that have been happening in that area in the last 2.5 years have been part of the reason why the club's in the problem it's in today. So I think tonight's an opportunity for you guys to ask any questions you want. We're prepared to take challenging questions, awkward questions, difficult questions. I think it is disappointing that the board chose not to turn up tonight. I think that's actually not right, in the sense that here's a chance for everyone to listen to what you guys have to say. You guys are the lifeblood of this club. So I'm not going to listen again to all this nonsense about Charles Green saved the club. You guys saved the club. It's your club. So let's have a chat tonight. Let's have open debate, and let's have all the issues out on the table.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul. We'd like to ask Scott Mother to say a few words now.
Thanks, Gordon. A lot of you guys won't know who I am. My name is Scott Murdoch. I'm a chartered surveyor, a property guy, and I apologise for my English accent. I'm a Glaswegian born and bred. I was born up here, lived here for all my school career. I was a Rangers season ticket holder from the age of 4. I had a father and son season ticket with my dad in the main stand. But unfortunately, I've moved down south the last 30 years. I've married an English girl, and she's had a significant influence on my accent. But I'm definitely a Blue Nose through and through, and still have a season ticket to this day, and still travel and have done for the last 30 years up to Glasgow for a number of the games, a lot of the games, and all European away games in the old days, and home matches. So I'm a devoted fan. I've actually also got a Rangers room in the house as well in my house in London. That's how devoted I am. My business credentials: I'm a managing partner of a property business in London, employing 50 people. We have an office in New York. We also have an office in Hong Kong. I've also am a shareholder and a non-exec director of a number of retail businesses. So perhaps maybe my property and retail expertise might be of use to Rangers on the board. And how I got involved in this was to begin with through Paul, because Paul first asked me to get involved in the Blue Knights consortium that I'm sure you'll all be aware of, to try and buy the club from the disastrous Craig White regime and the ultimate administration. And we were 3 or 4 days away from that transaction happening when suddenly a guy from nowhere that we'd never even heard before, called Charles Green, came from left field and bought the club from Duff and Phelps, and we'll no doubt discuss later on why that may have happened. So that was my first involvement. Actually, after that, I met Malcolm, and we got to know each other very well. And at the time of the IPO, I was actually interviewed and approved by Senkos as a non-exec director of the club at the time of the IPO. So in terms of fit and proper people, we've all been vetted by Senkos and by institutions as being people that are fit to serve you and serve the fans. And basically, I'm just my main gripe has been for the last few years that this has been run first of all by Craig White and then by Charles Green in an appalling way. We'll go on to some detail later on, and I just am disgusted with the way the club has gone, and I want to try and help as much as I can by bringing transparency and trust back to Rangers.
Thanks, Scott. Next person to speak now is Alec Wilson.
Thank you. We're saving microphones. Right, most of you won't know me either. Alex Wilson. I was born and raised in a place called Hill House, which is an estate in Hamilton. My early connection with Rangers was going to my game, the first game at 6 with my grandpa. I've been a supporter ever since. I'm a season ticket holder in Bar 72. Done 37 years in industry, all for big companies, including Ford, Diageo, BT. The last 15 to 16 years at senior level, and I've either been running bits of the business or I've been running major functions, so senior level responsibility. Experience, I'm not an investment guy. The experience I can bring is experience in running organizations, experience in improving organizations and how effective they can be. And because 2 or 3 of my big roles were as HR director, I'm also a specialist in executive pay or executive overpay as well. So I hope to bring that to the party. I was also involved about a year ago. I knew Malcolm Murray a wee bit, and Senkos approached me and said, was I interested in becoming a non-exec at Rangers? And naturally I jumped at the chance. They also interviewed me, had me vetted and approved as a fit and proper person. I did meet Mr. Green and Ahmed Imran and Craig Mather. But for some reason, I'll never know why, it didn't quite work out then. For some reason, maybe it was a lucky escape on my part. But after Jim got this rolling again, Malcolm reached out and said, look, we really do need to put a group together that's prepared to get in there, commit to the club, be there for the benefit of the club, not for the benefit of the directors. Would I like to become involved? And I said yes. And this is why we're here today. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Alex. Our final speaker of the 5 now is Malcolm Murray, former chairman.
Thank you very much. It must be nearly half time now, given the length of those speeches. Everyone's going on about their great Rangers credentials. Well, I've got a dog called Baxter and a son called Greg. And Scott, I've been in London 31 years and haven't lost the accent that much. So I'm here for the same reason as you guys. If I wasn't on this table, I'd be sitting there with the same concerns as you've had. We can't let this club get into trouble again. As Jim said, we have investors who'll invest on the right basis if it's cleaned up. It has to be cleaned up, and you're the guys that can make that happen. You are the customers. On the business front, I had a 30-odd year career in investment management. Notably, was Man United's biggest shareholder when it was almost the same size as Rangers when I first invested in it, and it's now 100 times bigger. So we're the size of 1% of Man United, which is just rubbish. We should be much bigger. A few words on what I did when I was chairman. It was very difficult for me. Unfortunately, I was outvoted with Walter on almost every occasion on the things we wanted to do. So unfortunately, the 2 guys you've heard, Scott and Alex, if they'd been there as non-execs, we might never have got in this position, but I was just isolated. With hindsight, I should have left earlier and fought it from the outside, as we're doing at the moment. But it was very difficult. A lot of people told me to stay in and try and sort it, but eventually Walter and I just couldn't do any more. On the high salaries, which a certain Mr. Irvin accuses me of being responsible for, this time last year I was the only independent director on the board before public company status. I can tell you that Green started off with double what he ended up with, and it was a devil's own job getting him that low. Still far too high, but I fought against it. There was no remuneration committee till January this year, of which I wasn't even on, but I promise you guys I fought against that. And as they've all said, I haven't taken a penny out, spent a fortune, nearly lost the wife over the effort we put into this, as Paul was experiencing as well. So we're here to help you, and good luck tonight.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. So no questions, that's great. We'll finish there. I'm sure there will be some things, but that was very enlightening in terms of hearing some of that aspect. We're going to get started now. What's happening? Listening.
Who am I? I'm James Easdale, right? I came with bus tonight, so that's okay, I can say that. We're just going to sort out now the microphones in order to get the questioning underway. And our friends in the media are leaving us at this point, and we're saying cheerio to them. Not going away. No, cheerio is a better word. You know. So remember, as I said before, when you've got, we're going to be taking 3 questions at a time. They don't have to be the same about the same thing. But what you have to do is, you maybe if you want to put it to anybody particular among the 5 gentlemen here, that's fine. You can also nominate who you want to answer the question, and also, as I said, you want to give your name and whether you're related to one of the fan groups, you know, the supporters groups or whatever. That's what we want to know when you're asking the question. So, and as I say, the order's been great so far. I would like that to continue. Even if you've got something to say, I don't want you shouting out, because we want to keep it the best of order for tonight. We're going to have another, at the moment, we'll do 25 minutes, then we'll have that break we spoke about, and then, as I say, we'll have another 45 minutes after that in order if anything else comes up. But I think we're ready to get going now. I think the girls have got the mics. Got mics? Okay. The girls will choose who they're going to give the mics to, and we can start the questions. We'll start first here, right? 3 people from over this side. Who's got a question?
My name's Dean, first of all. I'm not a member of any group below. I'm a lifetime member of the Rangers Supporters Trust, but definitely not anymore. To Paul Murray, you've continually stated you've no personal ambitions out with seeking corporate governance at Rangers FC. Do the current custodians, including the recent additions to the board, deserve an opportunity to see if they can provide this governance?
Yep. Okay, that's question 1. We're not starting yet, and then we've got another question.
Hi, my name's John. My only affiliation is to Rangers Football Club, and my question's for Paul Murray. You previously stated, when asked why you were unable to prevent David Murray making some of the ill-judged decisions that he made, that you are effectively powerless in your non-executive capacity. I want to know what would be any different you coming back in a non-executive capacity.
Okay, now one more. Over here. Oh, he's got something. Sorry.
How you doing? I'm Gil Penman. I'm proudly Presbyterian free thinker. It's for Jim McCall. Jim, if the requisitions were unsuccessful, would you still be willing to help the current board?
Okay, so I think we've got 2 questions for Paul to start with, and then Jim can answer his. On you go, Paul.
I hope this isn't a foretaste the rest of the evening. I'm going to get all the questions, but I think the first question about the new members, as Jim said, there's been 3 new directors appointed in the last 3 weeks or so: David Summers, Graham Wallace, and Norman Crichton. And as Jim said, those individuals seem as if they've got decent CVs. They seem to be credible. Malcolm and I have met all 3 of them. They seem to be, well, they say they're independent. But I think, you know, so I think we have to give them a chance. And so to answer your question, we do have to give them a chance. But I think what I would say is that after everything that's happened in the last couple of years to the club, a lot of people have walked through the front door of Ibrox in the last couple of years and said, well, this, well, that, well, the next thing. And I think there's a need to earn the trust of the supporters going forward. And I think, as people often say, actions speak louder than words. And I think they have to prove that. So I think that's a question. Yes, let's give them a chance, but obviously they're going to have to prove their credentials. I think as regards Sir David Murray, you know, let's take that question in a number of different ways. I mean, I think if you look at David Murray's stewardship over 20 odd years, I mean, I've defied some people in the audience tonight to say that that wasn't at times good for the club. I mean, ultimately disgraceful. No, I'm going to finish. I mean, I think the early part of it, I mean, watching the team, the players we watched during that period, was, I think as a supporter, was good. But no, but I'm going to finish. I'm just going to finish.
Best of all, guys, come on. I know you want this thing you want to say.
I was going to say it's in stages. I'm trying to answer the second part of the question. So, but as I've said publicly many times, clearly the last 10 years of David's stewardship was clearly bad. I mean, it was a difficult financial position. Having said that, you know, I was probably the most public critic of the sale to Craig White, and remember it was Craig White who put the club into administration. It wasn't David Murray. Well, I think you'll see. I mean, first of all, I was there for 4 years. The first 2 years, David was chairman. The last 2 years, Alistair Johnson was chairman. The debt came down, and I was on the board. Half in those 4 years. We can do, yeah. We'll answer, well, we can. If you want to get into the plan now, we can do it later. I think we're pretty successful before. I mean, if you look at the two things, I mean, this is a football club. A football club is judged by the success in the pitch. You have to do it on a sustainable basis. So if you look at the two main things that happened during that 4 year period that I was on the board, I mean, I can't claim credit for any other period, but you know, first of all, it's a matter of public record. The debt was 35 million when I joined the board. It was 14 when I left the board. We won 3 SPL championships in a row out of the 4 years and reached our first European final in 36 years. So we were investing in the team as well. We were buying players like Jelovic, etc. So it wasn't as if we were starving the club of football success. You know, I'm not saying that I had a massive burst up with David Murray, as everyone knows. I pleaded with him not to sell the club to Craig White, but he was forced into it by the Bank of Scotland. I don't speak fondly of him. I'm simply presenting a balanced view. I think that's your view, and you're entitled to your opinion. All I'm saying is that, you know, I think his stewardship is mixed. That's my view.
Jim, you want to? Sorry, yeah. Can Jim answer his question
now? You know, I'm not looking to get involved going forward. I'm pretty busy in what I do, but you know, if I can be of any help to Rangers, yes, I would be. And if there was a board in place that I thought was, you know, had the right goals for the club, if I could help in any way, I would. Yes.
Okay, we could some questions from this side, please.
Hi there, my name's David, and I'm an independent fan. Paul, on your comments about those 4 years, it's a bit like saying, apart from anything else, Mrs. Kennedy, did you enjoy your trip to Dallas? I have to be honest and say that when you first appeared on the scene with the Blue Knights, I never wanted you anywhere near the club because of your involvement with David Murray, because ultimately David Murray was responsible for where we are today. However, looking at the current charlatans that are in the board, I think ending would be an improvement on that. So that's not really saying you guys are any good. You're just better than the current Muppets that are currently there. What I'd really like to point out, though, and this is a key point, this is a question for everyone, especially Malcolm Murray. What was going on signing off an £850,000 salary for a third division manager?
We'll leave that question just now.
Why?
Another question?
I want to follow up on it, Gordon, yes.
Right, okay.
Okay, so what was going on with that? The same with Durant and the same with McDowell. Also, the playing budget as well, with the staff, was an absolute disgrace what's been done. We're all talking about the board and how the company's been run. What about the management? What about the players that we brought in? Not anything like what the money's worth. There's a man back there, Nacho Novo, who wasn't given a contract for this club. That man is a hero, and he should be given a contract over Stevie Smith or Richard Foster. And that's what I just like to say. There needs to be more investigation of the manager and also the playing staff and what's been going on there. And I want to know what you're going to do about it.
Okay, another question. We'll get that. We'll get to you. We'll get your answer for that yet. Question here.
Hi there, my name is Paul Jenkins, independent shareholder and season ticket holder, not affiliated to any groups. A question to Jim McCall, please. What roughly do you know is our recognition of chances of overthrown Brian Stockbridge and co at the AGM. I mean, if you looked at the background, who's going to vote where and stuff like that. And also, we're going to need funds. Obviously, as figures mentioned, there's only about 1 million left in April. Are you going to do another IPO, or you mentioned about other shareholders investing more funds? Have you got any plans there? And I'd just like to make one other point to Paul Murray. A lot of people having a go at David Murray here. I firmly believe that if the banks hadn't, for lack of a better word, cocked up, none of this would have happened. They wouldn't have put the pressure on Mr. Murray to sell. They were putting under severe pressure. He got the money owed, what you call it, the overdraft money owed from, was it 90 odd million down to about 24 million, and still had success. In any other business, that is good going. But because of the global downturn and the banks state that they were in, they had to get all the money back in, they were told, and I think we had a troubleshooter on the board at the time, didn't we?
Well,
okay, I think we'll leave it to those two just now. I think we'll leave it because there's more than one question from both the guys here, so we can answer. Who's going to answer the first one there from? Is Malcolm? You're going to answer it about
for the
management wages?
The manager's salary. Well, I'm going to have to dodge the column here because Green said to me, "If he's not on the bloody board, it's none of your business." So I was only involved in people on the main board salaries. We tried to discuss it, and I think you all know what Green was like now. I personally think that he wanted to use McCoist, as he did for Walter Smith, as a PR machine for himself. Therefore, he'd pay him anything to get his endorsement.
Anybody else want to say anything on that? Paul, you want to come in on that one? Or?
Well, I think is on Ali McCoy's salary. I mean, I think it's been well documented that the salary is too high, isn't it? I mean, I think for the where the club is, and I think he's admitted that. So, I think that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the matter.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Not to be up McCoy, but will you consider still him as manager if he votes for the current board at the AGM, being such a large shareholder he is? Because that is a very important issue, is to see how he does vote. And to say that it's suicide for him to vote for them, well, it's suicide for Rangers Football Club to vote for him. Yeah. And it is a big concern.
Well, I think you have to look at, I think, Ali in sort of 3 levels. First of all, he's obviously a kind of icon of the club. Everyone knows who he is. He's internationally known. He's a manager of the club. So therefore, he's an employee of the club. And he's also a big shareholder. I mean, I'd like to think, he certainly told me when I've spoken to him at length about it, that he'll do the right thing for the club. He's first and foremost a Rangers supporter, and I would expect Alan McCoy to do what's right for the club.
In terms of the second question, do you want to answer it, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I went down to see Laxey Partners last week, just before they announced that they were going to support the current board with their 11.5%. I've spoken to a number of other shareholders. I think we've got a chance of getting Stockbridge off. There's enough people think that he's presided over a big outflow of cash there. So I think if we keep the pressure on, we'll get him off. The line that the new guys are taking is, look, we need time to assess what's going on, and if he's done wrong, we'll get rid of him. Give us time. They're asking all the institutions to be given time to sort it out, to give them time. So I don't think it's a slam dunk for him to be off, but we really need to push hard to get him off, because I think that's a key part of getting this club right, getting someone in who can really dig into the finances and find out what's gone wrong. So I'll be pushing hard with all the shareholders, and the fans should really, all the people out there that can vote should be voting that guy off, I think. Chances of getting the team on here, I think it's very close. It's a close thing. The existing team are going round the institutions just now, and they're saying, look, we're just in, back us, give us a chance. We'll sort things out. I'm very surprised when the chairman was appointed that he didn't say, coming into this club, if you've had a court case and there's been some nominations put forward and you know you've got to strengthen the board, if you're impartial, you would interview all these guys and you would say, what are you going to do for the club? What can you bring to the board? And then come out and tell people you'd interviewed them and reasons why you weren't, you were only selecting one or two or all four. That hasn't happened. That would be the normal thing to happen. That's what I would do in his position. So I think there's a stonewalling going on here, and there's a lot of effort going in to try and block anything happening, and it's going to be a very close thing. But we've really got to push hard to get as many of the 4 people sitting here on the board as we can.
Some, any more questions on this side? No?
What, do you want to just add?
Yep.
Right, there's a lot of discussion that's been going on amongst the fans and a feeling that it's a them or us. And it's either them on one side, the current board, or it's you, and there's no mixing. And what I can actually see is some of the group that's sitting at the table at the moment, minus Stockbridge and the new guys, and giving them a chance. And you mentioned earlier on that is something that you would give these guys a chance with some of your guys on the board and create a mix that is the best thing for the club to move forward. And it's important to get that point across, I think, that it's not just them or us. It's a mix is probably the right thing to go.
No, and I actually very strongly believe that. I think the whole way this has been portrayed by the media and by the other side is it's going to be continual, fighting, and that's not the way it is. You're absolutely right. There's some coming from our side as well that would like them all out. That's not going to happen. We need to get real. That's not going to happen.
Get them all out.
No, the original EGM. The original EGM would have left 2 on. It would have got the green camp out. That was the original EGM.
If you actually look at when this actually started at the end of July. That's when believe it or not, it's been 4 months of this stuff. And at that point in time, there were 6 people on the board, including Walter as chairman. And there's now only 2 of those 6 left, which is James Easdale.
Well done to that. It was great.
No. I'm just saying that actually, the change has been made. Obviously, what's happened in the last few weeks is they brought in 3 additional members. We're saying, they appear in paper to be credible. They say they're independent, and I think as we said before, we have to give them a chance. But obviously, we think that Brian Stockbridge's position is totally untenable, and we've said that, and I debate that with you all night if you want. And the second thing is we think that we can add something to the board as well. And actually, if you think about it, on the 19th of December, there's going to be 9 names on a ballot paper. And this is a one-off chance for everyone to vote for the board they want. They can choose the best skills that you want. But I think the most important thing for me, as a fan first and foremost, is we've got to have trust in people. Whoever's on that board, you have to trust. I mean, the amount of money's gone out of the club in the last couple of years, it's just eye-watering. So you've got to have trust in the board and know that at the end of the day, it's your season ticket money that funds the club.
But that's a really good point you make. Both sides. We need to build. You need to understand that we're going to have to work together here.
I think it's important to know that you actually voice that opinion, and you have alluded to it tonight, but not actually until now come out and actually say.
No, I think that's absolutely key, and we're being delusional if we think that they're going to be wiped out and a new team walk in. That's just not going to happen. What we need to do, and it may be that Stockbridge doesn't get voted off, but as long as we've got the balance in the club, we can take care of things once you've got the right team in. So you don't need to be worried if that doesn't happen, as long as we get some people on the board. I think I would bet that 2 of the guys that are on are okay. I'm not sure about the chairman, because I just don't understand his actions since he came on. He should have been more open The people that backed us in the original requisition were 28% of the shareholders, and there were a number of others on top of that. You need to listen to these people, and he's not listened.
Hang on. Yeah, Mike.
Taken up. Hi. My name is George Glenn. I'm an independent supporter. Following on from the question that was raised earlier, it's very interesting, in fact, that you seem to be adopting a much more sort of softened approach towards the opposition. How do you reconcile that then with the failed mediation from Dave King earlier on? Because it was clear to everyone that he came over here to act as a bridge between the two camps. But for whatever reason, it never happened. Now you seem to be adopting, as I say, a much more conciliatory approach.
Well, when he came over, Mather was still there, Smart was still there, and Dave King came to see me, and he was very open in talking to everyone, and his view was that he couldn't get behind. He said someone was pulling the strings behind the scene, and he wasn't going to go into something that he couldn't control. He was just going to be, sidelined on, and that's why Dave King pulled back just now. He's prepared to come in future, but his view was he couldn't get to the bottom of who was behind this, and he said that he thought there were still outside influences pulling the strings on this board. And since then, Mather's gone, Smart's gone, Hart's gone. So there's a number gone since Dave moved on, and I think he would be taking the view, once it's all it levels out, I think he'll be back to talk to people.
Have you got any plans to talk to him again shortly, before the AGM? Is there something, in fact, that you can pull out the hat and say, yeah, okay, this is what we propose to do. We are lining up a series of support.
There are people on the proposed nominees here talking to him regularly, but I don't think we'll see. I'd be surprised if he might do something before the AGM, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I speak to Dave King on a regular basis, and I spoke to him on Monday of this week, actually. So I think Dave's position is, as Jim was saying, first and foremost, I've got a lot of respect for Dave King. He's always been his own man, but I've always found him in my dealings, despite what some members of the media say about him and his various tax problems, I've always found him to be an upstanding citizen, and certainly as regards Rangers, I think his actions have always been Rangers-minded. I think his position is that Dave will definitely help the club as and when, or if we get to that point, it looks like we will get to that point of needing to raise more money. And he has said publicly, and he's also said to me privately, that he will help the club. I think the problem, as Jim was saying, the problem he's got is he doesn't know who's really behind the scenes at the moment, and it's not clear to me either, in the sense that, obviously there's a massive question mark, as we've been asking a lot about Blue Pitch Holdings and Margarita Holdings, who own 15% of the shares. They were original investors behind Charles Green, and I just don't understand, to take the point about the chairman. If the chairman's coming in and he's independent, why doesn't he just disclose who those people are? I just can't understand why he wouldn't want to tell everyone who's behind those companies. And I think it would actually get rid of a lot of the suspicion and a lot of the anxiety that we all have. And to give you an example, I mean, Scott was talking to a shareholder last week, and the guy was an original investor in the club at the time of the assets being bought from Duff and Phelps. Put his money in. He was promised a bunch of things by Charles Green. Didn't hear from Charles Green for 7 months. We spoke to him last week about his intentions. He's pretty pissed off. Obviously, I put the money in, nothing's happened, and no one's speaking to me. He said, haven't heard from Charles Green for 7 months. We speak to him. He said, I'd love to meet you. He then phones back the following day and says, Charles Green's turned up on his doorstep the following day to talk to him. Now, what's Charles Green doing talking to shareholders if, as he publicly says, he sold his shares and he's no longer involved in the club and he's now back in France? Why is he talking to shareholders? That's the kind of stuff you're dealing with.
Last Friday.
Last Friday.
Take one more question now and then we'll have a break. Okay, one more.
Hi guys, Jim Smith, Secretary, St Andrews, the Chapel Supporters Club. You touched on the subject there. See, to the best of your ability and knowledge, is Charles Green or Craig White in any way, shape, size or form still got their finger in the pie at Ibrox?
Me. Well, you've just heard that we think Charles Green is definitely pulling some sort of strings, and Dave King suspected it as well. I don't think Craig White is, but who knows? I think it's just Green. But for me, this thing needs total transparency, and as long as Green's behind the scene, then we still have to be wary of these new three guys, I'm afraid. If they come out and do what Paul said, then fair enough, but there's still some suspicion, I think.
Okay. Thanks very much for your attention just now. We'll have a break, 15 minutes, and then we'll be back in here for 10:15. Everybody back in your seats, please. Thank you. 9:15, sorry. Not giving you an hour and a quarter.